Yo, I am in my college dorm right now. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but today we're gonna be looking at how I made my song, A Bittersweet Memory. Now, when I started making this song, it was like, according to this bounce, like February 10th of 2024. So this one's been in the works for a while. And I didn't really know like what to do with this drum loop that I'd found. And I bounced it out, and I was just trying to write to it. And it was called Crunchy Tame Impala, because I thought it kind of sounded like him. Now this was literally just a Logic Pro loop that I found, and I didn't know if anything would be made of it. I honestly had just bounced it and then kind of just forgot about it. But then I came back to it because I found it sitting in my sessions one day. I'd honestly gone off to go work on like Asleep and everything and releasing that one. I was super excited about that one. But I didn't know what to do with Crunchy Tame Impala 21024. At one point I did though. I mean, I'd literally bounce this out 13 minutes and 2 seconds because I was just trying to like write out ideas to it, I think. So I think it's appropriate to start none other than with the drums. And the song starts off with so with the drums there, what's going on is it's this electro bump ultra beat thing that Logic Pro has. It's a stock thing. And that's what it sounds like without its plugins on it, besides the drum bus ones. It has this hard compressor on it. And some EQ to filter it. Some tape delay that makes it go. Yeah, kind of just adds more space to it. It doesn't look like I put really any like reverb on it, so it's just kind of like a dry thing that's there. Now, once that hit actually happens, what's going on is there's this main drum loop, which is the same one that I'd bounced like almost 2 years ago. Over 2 years ago. That's crazy. And it's just this. But if we take off the effects, it's just the drum loop that I found in Logic. Which sounds kind of harsh, so I EQ'd it. And then some distortion, kind of lower some of the mids, and hard compression. You can see it hitting right there. And then flanger, just, I don't know what it was with the flanger, but it added like this like cool, like metallic, like phasing sort of sound. And you could see the rate's pretty slow. I mean, it's like 2 bars versus, you know, if it like was much higher, it'd be like, whoa. But I just wanted something that kind of had like this like moving thing with the drum beat. And moving into the other parts, we actually have the same drum beat, just bounced out and reversed. And with no effects, that's literally just this. Put a phaser on it to kind of give it like its own room. And an EQ to cut off all that. Top and bottom, so it's just kind of floating in the middle of the mix. And then a lot of room reverb. I absolutely adore cowbell, and I love putting it in basically all my songs now. So it's called Cowbell Constant. It's literally just that. With nothing on it, it's just... So it's got this like 16th note thing, so it's like da, 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 da. And then a little bit of hall reverb to give it like that. It's like these like, I like to think of it like if it's like a hall reverb, I like to use a bus of a hall and a room reverb. And the hall reverb, you know, you have a naturally larger space, but if you only use a little bit of that signal sending to that, it's like a puff of air that comes out, and it just adds this like, it just, without it, it just feels a little weird. And then crashes, there's this higher crash, which before was just this. Sounds harsh. Cut off some of the highs. And then sample delay, which widens it. And then tape delay. 16th note delay on there. The filter crash. Same sort of thing. And then a lower crash, which is like an acoustic one, which sounds really strange by itself. It almost sounds like, I don't know, it almost sounds like just a big cymbal, which is exactly what it kind of is. But with no effects, this is like what it sounds like. Which sounds pretty rough. But if you EQ that, not as bad. Sample delay it. you know, widen it in the mix just a little bit, and then tape delay. Put those reverbs on. You know, the hall reverb, well, looks like it's just the hall reverb, and then a quarter note delay, right? And then I got this. This is like an oddly signature sound to this record, and I don't really understand why. I just remember hearing this loop with the drums, and I was like, that's so dope. But I remember the first time I heard this sound, it was, and I think I was just hitting like high buttons on this. Oh, there it is. I was like, okay, I want to use that. So I crunched it. I added some EQ to cut off the highs and lows. Chorus. And tape delay. Now the thing that adds that crunch is I turned down the clip threshold. Kind of turned it up in a way because it's detecting it at a lower decibel level. So it starts distorting pretty quick. And then if we go further on, you know, towards the end of the song, it's just the same kind of loop. Except there's another cowbell now. So there's the cowbell constant in the left, and then this one's on the right. It's like dragging a little bit. It's kind of weird. So if you put it with like, but without those effects, it's just one cowbell. But if you put like a ton of feedback and you cut the dry signal, then it will happen on like the next beat basically, and it'll just have the delay. So it'll be like, and you put a ton of room reverb on it. It sounds like someone's like hitting in a room. Another thing I did was I found that I could just take those like same sort of crashes and make risers out of them. And then the part of the song right before the guitar solo and everything, there's like this like drop where everything just seems to go like underwater. So what happens there, it's the same sort of layers as before, except what really changes is we throw in the underwater cowbell. So now the cowbell player is underwater. It's like a scuba diver who's a cowbell player on the side. I did this thing with the cowbell on the right. If you take off the effect, what's really happening here is you could put these faders on the tracks. What I did is I put a fader on it, but then I put it to a slowdown effect. Tape delay, so it captures that. Almost sounds like a Pac-Man sound or something. The main drums, what I did with that, I duplicated the track and then I basically cut off all the highs. So it sounds like the drum set fell underwater, or it's just like covered by the world's biggest pillow fort. Then I wanted to give it like this weird texture. This little part right here is actually my voice, and I just go, and then I EQ'd it. I wanted to bring out that like bass part. Crushed it because it was very dynamic. And then I put overdrive and then I crushed it again. Some 16th note delay, 8th note delay. And in context, you don't really notice it, but in this riser here, like I did with the other ones, I literally just took a crash and then I bounced it out and I just reversed it. If I unreverse this, it's just this. But if I do reverse it, and I cut all the reverb and everything. In that like underwater part, what I did is I also had some just random percussive elements and that, and the impact sound. It's kind of like a transitional sound. Going into the guitar solo part, what I wanted to do is I wanted like some crashes. Now the thing is, this is a drum loop, so I couldn't necessarily manipulate it. I could do it MIDI wise, but I wanted it to have like a cool like chopped up sound. I took the original drum thing and I wanted to make it just slam. I wanted to make it hit way harder. Right, that's without that. We had the same sort of thing we had before. Clip distortion. The clip distortion does it. And having that room reverb really helps it like reflect in the mix. The drums all together at that part. And some extra things at the bottom. I can't play drums super well, but I hear what the idea is that I'm going for. What I did here was I took this first one, I transposed up 4 semitones, and then the next one 3, 2, 1. So it just has this like cool chromatic thing. And then to finish up the song, going into like that acoustic part, it has like these crashes that kind of just dissipate and like make the atmosphere. Okay, next thing, guitar and bass. So really what started this song was looking at that original drum loop, and then I was trying to figure out a bass line to it. And I stumbled on that sort of chord progression, which is kind of odd, with no effects. Just that little noise gate. Sounds really odd right now. But this mod delay kind of adds like this weird like chorus sound to it. Kind of reminds me of like Nirvana's like Come As You Are, more compressor, because I wanted it to just be the smash. I didn't want it to like pop out dynamically in the mix. And I think this is originally, I had a few muted ideas over here. So if I play it with the drums, this is apparently an idea that I had. In the chorus, it's the same sort of thing, except this one has like, it's got more distortion basically. If we go into like the guitar solo part, basically what I did, if you just listen to the bass drums, it's just, I just took that same bass and just distorted it more. Same thing here, except it's a little more quiet. And then kind of just ends the song after that. If we look into guitars, the song starts out a few acoustic guitar things. These are played very roughly. This one was like the original acoustic recording, and I remember I just had it in here for a while because I just needed something to fill that like part. I knew I needed something here, so I just did it very quickly. But I went back and I took this and I was like, no, I want to re-record that. So I re-recorded it, but I kept the original one. And they're different voicings, so one's like a bar chord, one's like normal like D minor like position. And you can hear it like before the big chorus. And it kind of just adds like this like calm like twang to it. There's a really weird acoustic bus, and I had this in the chorus. I don't know, I just thought it layered well. I just thought it layered well with like the electric guitar, I guess. And so this is a very compressed and just some reverb compression, very hard compression, a hard compression, EQ. So it has like that attack, but it's kind of quieter in the mix. It kind of just adds like atmosphere. Then electric guitar. Okay, electric guitar. A lot of things to look at here. I gotta be honest, this session is pretty messy because I'll just bounce around with a ton of different ideas. So you can see all these like blue M's on here. These are just muted tracks. And I guess I never thought to like delete it because I was just like, maybe I'll use it. I try to do that with myself, is like, I always think like the worst thing that can happen is I just end up deleting it in the end, but I don't ever want to get rid of an idea that I think I might want to use. So it starts out with this guitar melody. So if we listen to it by itself, it's just this. Which sounds crappy. But a pedal board starts to get somewhere, then an amp, then EQ to cut off some of the lows, some of the highs, then compression. It sounds like it's like out of tune, but it has this thing on an LFO rate where you can turn up the rate and the intensity of it. As you can hear there, where it sounds like it like repeats but detunes, and then some chorus. And then of course, hall reverb. I was just messing around with, I guess let's hear what it sounds like without the like. And I think yeah, it looks like I quantized it like eighth note because I wanted it to be like very like, I didn't want it to feel loose there. And then we put these effects on it. Some widening, tape delay. This is one of my favorite effects. It's just this free one, and it literally just, or basically just, if you ever listen to like 2010s music and it's like, and it has like that like bass, or like a lot of like hip hop music, they'll use like sidechain compression. This basically just emulates that, and I just put it on each quarter note. I just thought it added some movement, and I just had some strums as well. I remember reading a comment and someone said this sounded like some kind of like alternative, like country sounding thing. I take that very much as a compliment, because a lot of the stuff I was kind of like doing kind of experiments with that. I mean, if you listen to like the verse, what's going on here? What's going on is that same strum's going on, but there's a slide guitar on the left, which with no effects sounds so weird. It's got some retro chorus to kind of give it like movement. I didn't want that to be a super heard layer, but it just add like, that one's pretty noticeable. It just has some tremolo on there as well. If you're listening in headphones, you can hear that it just like goes around the stereo field, I guess. There was this one guitar sound that I found, and it's called spider cello. I'm not a huge fan of spiders, but this one really stood out to me. So that's very dry, but if I put like pedal board, amp, it has like this super weird like reverse like reverb thing, and then I EQ'd it, compressed it, I put tremolo so you can hear it in stereo. It's more reverb. And if we listen to the chorus, what's going on here? This kind of opens it up. This whole song kind of sounds like this like blend of like Western, like Southern, like I kind of think of like the Lone Ranger when I'm looking at these guitar layers. Like it sounds like it's like a standoff, that kind of thing, like. And then if we look at this next part, kind of these like crunched guitars, more layers with the strum. But then the guitar solo, and this is what the guitar solo sounds like with no effects. So I'm gonna stop playing that, but basically put a pedal board on, a little flanger. other thing I did, you can kind of hear how like the reverb like opens up, and then I automated the hall reverb to kind of hit on those longer notes so that it like opens up in the stereo, especially because it has that chorus and like stereo effects on it. It does this thing where it just blooms. And then that same sort of like solo kind of continues into the last chorus. With the... And then kind of to the end of the song, you'll hear the guitar layer. You don't have to worry about tomorrow. Kind of goes between that like E and F. So the next thing, if we look at the synths, starts out with these two parts. I remember I was just playing around with like these. What this sound comes from is this sound. Which, as odd as that sounds, I just took like the beginning like two measures. I took that and I like reversed it, put some tube burn, some bounce to it, some weird hall reverb, and then I did the same kind of thing over here, but I just mixed it around. Because I didn't want them to phase, but if you put them together, but they cut off right in time for the wood. So then once we start the intro, we have like these pads here. Very 80s. I had this different layer originally where it was like this. But I didn't think that was very fitting, so I just had this. Just kind of like the softer layer in the background. And then of course the neon fifths sort of things, this as well. Cluster chords kind of fill out like the space. And these lo-fi ones, when it goes into the second verse, you can hear how it vaults. If you take it out, because there's really no other like melodic content going on there. And then once you throw in the synths, it adds more like context to it. Kind of the same sort of thing I did like with the guitar, and then like these like higher synth parts. Looking at these synths in the chorus, what we have is like very like anthemic synths, especially when we go into the post-chorus. Kind of that synth part kind of elevates it into that next part, is this. Which sounds really weird. If I take it and take off all the effects, it's like the synth that's like glitching around. But you put all these effects on it, you know, all these different reverbs and delays. It almost sounds like a siren. If we look towards the end, it's the same sort of thing. But that vocal melody is like repeated in that part. It kind of just like serves as like a double. Some other things. There's this little like synth bass that's layered with the electric bass. The way I got it to work was honestly, they just sat in like completely different frequencies. So you have like more of like a sub bass versus like the bass guitar. So it almost serves as like a release of that bass guitar. If you look more at the synths in this area, right at the guitar solo, you can hear these delays kind of like flop around a bit. The way I do that is like, you look at this, you can see the flutter rate and the LFO rate, which is like detuning and stuff. But it's this tape delay, so it emulates it being in like an old like on tape, and it just sounds like kind of like more rough, but it adds like this like grit to it. And then there's a sine bass that I chopped up which match with the drums in the bass. They almost kind of like dissonate a bit because I wanted that doom doom to just kick. I wanted that to hit super hard. And when we go into the last chorus, the sort of thing that the synths do here, kind of do the same thing as the previous one. But it has like all of them at the same time. This is how it sounds originally. I mean, it's a great stock sound. Logic Pro, you nailed it on this one because dynamic soft pad, I love this preset because I messed with it. I kind of cranked the envelope a bit on this. So instead of like that, I wanted it to be a bit harsher. But I crushed that with some compression. Some like more stereo stuff with the chorus and then some tape delay. You can hear it kind of like bounce. That's that LFO and flutter rate kicking in. And then of course some hall reverb. And that's about it for the synths. If we move into the keys section, when the track starts, there's this piano. It's like chorused out, kind of like 80s. And then I've got these Mellotrons. I love Mellotrons. Honestly, I didn't want it to stick out in the mix, but I wanted it to be like, you have like this full Mellotron on both sides. So this left side, you have the 3 violins Mellotron. So it's like very stringy. And then on the right side, you have this more brass sound. It's kind of like a trumpet. It kind of sounds like crap. And I run both of these through a tube EQ, which kind of adds like this like warm drive to it, compressor channel EQ. I wanted it to sound like an old record, but if I put both of them together, it sounds like very Beatles-ish. And then I have this Wurlitzer that plays in the verses. This is a really weird thing that I did, but I layered this piano part and it's like a more mellow sound. I use Addictive Keys here. Highly recommend Addictive Keys and Addictive Drums if you're trying to produce like very much like real sounding like acoustic drums. They have really good like 80s sort of like drum machines, 90s sort of stuff. Really good stuff. I'm not sponsored by them, but they are great. Huge fan of them. So both these are Addictive Keys. I have this one right here. That's just kind of, it's kind of just this messy thing, and then I love how that Wurlitzer sits because it's like blah, blah, blah. I kind of just follow that same rhythm throughout that. So that's about it for the keys. So I have these 2 channels that I did not rename one of them. I call it Candy Vox. This is where I literally just take like little vocal things and I just want to make like them like just bounce around or just have like these weird like bouncy like atmospheric things. So I have this one, which if you don't have any effects on it, here's how it sounds. Granted, that has like the de-esser. So the first one, I think I have all the effects on that are right, but yeah, and you can hear the tremolo kicks in, kind of move that sound around the stereo. I can see the effects I have on for it. But the other Candy Vox one, it looks like we have a little bit more. I guess kind of what I did here is I had So this part in the Candy Vox is something you can do that's like super cool with production. So I'm gonna play this with like no effects on. And I reflected on myself. Really rough take, by the way. Yikes. But if I put on like a de-esser, some compression, and the pitch correction I had on, it has like this more like glossy sort of sound to it. I think that's a good word for it. I don't know. It just sounds like it's more poppy. But if I put this vocal transformer, you turn the format down, basically what that does It's like the formant is like you. The formant has to do with like kind of like the mouth shaping. It just, if you turn this up, it's more like Alvin and the Chipmunks. So like if you hear like, but I wanted it to have like this weird like on my shelf. But I wanted it to be up that octave. It just harmonically, it fit better. Then I have like these little risers where I'll sing like the note that I'm about to go to, and then like another note. So, and then I had this other little thing right here. Same sort of thing. It sounds like it's up another octave though. And then that's kind of it for those kind of vocals. But now we're at the main vocals. What I did for this is honestly, I'll show you what I used here. I use this microphone for a lot of like the main like crisp vocals, but I found that I love using my SM57. It just has like this kind of like punch to it and like this like older kind of sound to it. It has like a smaller polaric like pattern. So basically when I sing into it, it kind of just like gets like more push into it. But what I use is a lot of compression and definitely rolling off like lows and stuff. Because this will be used for like cabinets and everything, vocals as well, of course. It just sounded really interesting, like just putting that microphone with this one. And they're not necessarily the most expensive microphones, and I haven't really found much of a desire to go get like more expensive microphones, because I think using both of these kind of gives it like its own like sound vocally. Putting them together, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this. And so I tried recording on this one time and I just fell in love with it. A lot of the vocals you actually hear out in Asleep, which I'm gonna release a video for that as well. You'll notice kind of have like this like lo-fi sort of sound to it, and a lot of that is natural through that SM57 because it doesn't capture a super wide frequency range as far as like in comparison to like a dynamic microphone, like a studio or like a super expensive microphone. So that's a little bit about that. For one, the first vocal we hear in the song is right before the big drop, as they would say. So I didn't know exactly what to put here because I was like, it would be really funny if I was just like, huh? I just wanted it to have like a big like dynamic contrast with like the rest of the song, because it kind of starts out and it kind of like crescendos into this like weird ethereal thing, and then it drops, and then that's where there's space for that vocal. So the other layers. And honestly, without it, it's kind of weird. And there's a little percussive thing in the background as well. But yeah, I experimented with like different things to say there. Like this one, I'm saying yup. Yup. I think saying what in the most what. I just thought that was fun. Like if we listen to the full recording. What? I'm literally just standing there. And I didn't really do it directly into the microphone. I wanted to like capture the room that I'm emulating in here. People will like mic up like amps and whatnot, and it kind of like adds like this sound to it because you can like capture like the room and like the natural reverb and everything. And I think it's really interesting when you kind of just cut like the sound treatment. I saw another artist talking about this and I thought this was really interesting. His vocals really stand out and you can like hear like the room in which he like recorded, and like it has like this natural sound, and he kind of refuses to like use like this like soundproofing sort of thing that's kind of like so heavily pushed in the industry. But honestly, what I did here is I just wanted it to like start out like very like hall reverb, like very large reverb, and then cut down to just like me just in this room, and I'm like, it's just that room sound, and then it immediately just explodes into like this like hall reverb thing. When I originally did these vocals, I think I named this one Scrapyard 57, which is my SM57. I think I named it Scrapyard because I had done demo vocals on here. I remember recording these vocals over and over so many times and was just trying to get it to sound right. So these ones are kind of rough. The memory's so sweet. So there's a lot of things that I put on these vocals, and they're quieter in the mix. I just did like, a lot of it is like rolling off a lot of the lows and a lot of the highs, honestly. I didn't want like anything too shrill coming through. I think I remember recording these vocals. I think I took my microphone, I took like the pop filter from that, and I think I just put it over that or something, because I didn't want it to get like the, like the. But I wanted it to like still have that and capture it. In these vocals, you'll hear like, that's like just with de-esser, channel EQ, compressor on it. But if you have like a tube EQ, this like room emulator, more compression, tape delay, hall reverb, it doesn't sound great by itself. I mean, honestly, it's pretty quiet in the mix, to be fair, but when you listen to it, you can't really hear it too well. But if you take the main vocal, the memory's so sweet. This vocal sounds a lot more crisp. A lot of what I did on the main EQ is I do like a track stack because I'm recording in the same microphone and I'll do individual adjustments on each one. It helps save a lot of space when you do these track stacks, which was a thing I learned, and I am so grateful to have learned that. Doing this was such a game changer, and I remember I was still producing on like a 2012 MacBook Air, and I just remember it would get system overload. And doing these track stacks helps compile space so much, because then all you're doing is you're just putting audio tracks below each one, but you're putting the same effects on all of them without doing it on each one. You're just doing an overlaying one. And it's like this umbrella basically for that, which works super well. And when I recorded these vocals, I had like, the memory's so sweet. That's a double. And what's interesting about this double is that I compressed it harder, but I also added some chorus. I wanted like parallel compression, but I wanted to do it like naturally. The memory's so sweet, so sweet, so sweet. The main vocal is just this. Because the main vocal is just this. The memory's so sweet. As you can see, this monstrosity of a bus over here, it was going to send, some of its signal into this bus. It was going to hit a channel EQ, then a de-esser, then some distortion, then some more distortion, some pitch correction because I wanted it to like just be right on the dot. More compression, tape delay, sidechain compression, more compression, a chorus, a channel EQ, tremolo, and then sample delay. I don't really know what I was thinking, but I was trying to get the most like stereo, like reverberant thing to make this thing like explode. Basically, this repeated vocal is sidechained to the vocal itself. The way this sidechain compression works is really odd. I basically, on this separate bus, it's sending the signal here and it's gonna output that signal. So the vocal itself on this track is different from the bus, and it's sidechained to the vocal track. And what I did is, I have a very high ratio, all this. So when this vocal hits, you can see how this, the memory's so sweet, so sweet, so sweet, so sweet. You can see in the graph. The memory's so sweet, so sweet, so sweet, so sweet, so sweet, so sweet. The pain is all we see. So when that main vocal hits, I didn't want both to go at the same time. So I like made my own thing, and there's plugins for it, but I just wanted to be like fully in control of it. I basically wanted this vocal to be going, and then as soon as it isn't, this other vocal comes up and repeats that, and then vice versa, and then it happens again. And it was just a matter of like getting that right on time. So the memory's so sweet, so sweet, so sweet, so sweet, so sweet. Once I got that, I was so happy. I have a few other side vocals that kind of go alongside this. I have like these like high vocals. Very dramatic. I try to be very dramatic with how I record the vocals. We can kind of hear it. But it feels so unsettling. But like having the octaves, it adds like this kind of like dissonance. And I try to make sure that it's not overpowering, but it's more of a stylistic thing depending on what you're going for. Especially like, I'll hear it with like disco stuff where it'll be like a really high vocal and then maybe have like a lower vocal in there as well. It's a really cool thing to do, but for this style, I was trying to just kind of have it as like an extra layer to push those words out. So with the 57, it kind of just adds like this. The memory's so sweet, so sweet, so sweet, so sweet. And then this without the 57. But the pain is all we see. It's just the 57 adds like this extra oomph. I don't know how to describe it. I'm just a big fan of it. I'm a big fan of like the layering stuff there. So this is the second time there's like this like pre-chorus thing. I added it in on this like Ooze Vox bus. I'll typically have like these like choral things like going on. But I just took this main part. I wish I could remember all the times we spent together. But I wanted it to have like more like tension and resolution in a way as it goes into the chorus. And so what I did, it just happens like a little bit later. Could remember all the times we spent together, riding. And it just adds like this like thing into the reverb. Righting the wrongs of each other. These harmonies I'm a big fan of. Righting the wrongs of each other. And now we get into the crazy stuff. And now I don't need to worry another second longer. I'm writing the words to my story. And now you don't have to worry about another myself. It's still going. This vocal starts out with just this lead vocal, and you can see the large like hall reverb is like cut off. And now I don't need to worry. And then it goes right into it, right on that downbeat. A line of this song, I use like a lot of just like adding and subtracting layers. I wanted this to start off with literally just this vocal, just right down the middle. And now I don't need to worry. Instead of like having a ton of layers, because then it just repeats it. I don't need to worry another second longer. I'm writing the words to my story. And now you don't have to. So that's the sort of thing that's going on there. Oh yeah, and then this dry road bus. There's these little guys that just go. And really all that does is just kind of like launches us into the next part. The ahs and the oo bus, or the oos and the ah bus. Just kind of like a choral thing, and then I wanted a really quiet part that's like this. Very rough. What? Goes right into the solo section. What? Of course, that part. You know, another random thing that I noticed right before the guitar solo is this. It's just kind of like a riser. There's all these different risers in the song. And it's that same part from earlier. And everything just cuts there, just like it did earlier. What? Though there's like so many more things that go into the song and all the automation throughout just all the different tracks. One of the last things that we have is just kind of the combination of all of them in the end. I don't need to worry another second longer. I'm riding. So the way I did that, I wanted an ad-lib, but I wanted it to not phase with what was going on with the lead vocal. And then the airy vox. Need to worry another second longer. So these have like more low end to them in a way, but really I utilized this really cool plugin called Fresh Air. And I used a lot of hall reverb so that they would have more like sustain to them, even though they're kind of quieter than the lead vocal that's going on. So if you hear that in context, all of them. I don't need to worry another second longer. I'm writing the words to my story. A lot of delay, automation there. I don't need to worry another second longer. I'm writing the words to my story. And now you don't have to worry about some other guy like myself. I had a lot of takes. You can see this says comp A merged. I tried this a lot of different times. I was just trying to get it just right. I was just standing in like my basement. I didn't want it to just repeat like the chorus, like, because I think that'd be boring. And you can see that right on that vocal, the hall reverb on the track. It goes up. Another second longer. It does it again. To my story. And now you don't have to worry about some other guy like myself. It's like it gets further away from you and you're like losing it. And I guess that kind of connects to like the song, I mean, thematically, kind of the concept of like losing something. And funny enough, I do the same sort of thing with the acoustic guitar at the end. I mean, the volume goes up a bit, the hall reverb goes up a little bit, just right at the end. And you can hear it kind of just like expands a little bit, just in this last part. Well, I think that is basically everything. I think that's basically everything with the song. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I would absolutely love to do these kind of videos for every song I do. Please let me know what your thoughts are in like the comments or whatever down below or up above somehow, if it's like upside down or something. And yeah, I think that's all. Thank you so much.